Calvin T. Mann, leading Emmy, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to Emmy TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Hey, how y'all? My wife said, you better.
Cut the mic, engineer. Cut the mic, engineer.
Yeah. We gon' blow your mind. We gon' blow your mind. Don't be the one to doubt us. Hey. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Emmy TV. I am your host. Next to the hostess. We're live here today. Come in fired up. You know, went to my mentor. I'm feeling pretty good, as always. When I'm leaving my mentor, and I come in and I deal with the queen. You gotta know how to deal with the queen. See, you know what I mean?
Don't blame me. Don't blame me for your overly hyped behavior today.
Right. And so, with that being said, welcome to Emmy TV. Put Your Family First podcast. I really appreciate your time for joining in. Those of you who can pop in and join and want to listen and learn some things, because we're always talking about solutions and new information. It's what we like to share. By the time you catch up, we'll be 2, 3, 4 years in deep in a whole nother country when you catch up, because you got a lot of catching up to do. We putting down a lot of solutions. My co-host in the building, I said hostess, she was copying off me today, so this is Heather Aru and the black and the white.
You were just feeling my vibes today.
I was feeling your vibes today?
You were feeling my vibes today.
Baby, I'm always feeling your vibes. Always.
Oh, thank you for that.
Well, no problem. So again, welcome. What's the topic for today? I know is deep.
Yes.
So let me hear it.
Yes, it is.
Let me hear it.
Yes, it is. This is a perspective conversation today. And I really want people to listen with an open mind and an open heart, because this is really going to pull back a lot of layers for a lot of people. And this is not a conversation about judgment, but it is a conversation that we need to have a lot of self-correction happening in our homes, happening in our community, and happening within our village. That means those people who you have oversight have been entrusted to you for their wellness, their well-being, and to learn the life lessons that they need to be able to survive today. And so our topic today is, have we taken the innocence from our children? And when I'm speaking of children, I'm actually talking about kids under the age of 14. Under the age of 14 is still considered the having not quite reached the age of accountability. That's accountability legally, and accountability in terms of the oversight of parental involvement and parental necessity. And at that age, under spiritual laws, our parents are still responsible for the children and the decisions that they're making. And so that's a really important piece in this mix of puzzles and values and belief systems that we share together as our village. And so there were so many examples that kept pouring out when even having a conversation and asking people about some of the things that they're seeing that make them feel some kind of way about the innocence of our children. And so I have 5 categories. 5 categories that we're going to talk about today, and asking ourselves, if we have taken the innocence of our children in these particular areas. So I'm going to list the 5 areas first, and I'm going to go back with another disclaimer. So the first one is appearance. The second one is their activities or recreation. The third is education. The fourth is role models. And the fifth is beliefs and values. And so these are the 5 areas that, one, we're having this conversation about whether we have taken the innocence from our children. And so I'm going to make this disclaimer that I want you to keep your mind open about this topic, because if any of these areas you can cite examples, if any of these areas you feel that way, then that means that we have more work to do. We have more work to do in terms of our parenting skills. We have more work to do in terms of our stewardship as adults, and we have more work to do as our village, those people who are in our care and in our care system. And so the first one that we're going to talk about, and again, remember, this information is preference to children 14 and under, who are not quite at the age of accountability. And that's legally, that's spiritually, and that is also within the confines of our community. So the first one is appearance. Calvin, you had something you wanted to add before?
Well, I mean, I just got through, of course, going through a very extensive read about the appearance and what people see in black boys and black girls. This one was, in particular, was about black girls and how they see the appearance of a black girl as that of a grown person. So the treatment is different. A lot of it is, it's the mimicking. So you can go where you want to go with that. That was just my little, bits and pieces on appearance, because appearance is highly offensive to racism and to, those who had proper parenting. We find ourselves, at odds with things that we see when you have proper parenting. And when you don't have proper parenting in your eyes, considering the parenting for which you came, you got a different view. So that appearance piece is going to be one, because that goes back to the message I just left about being authentic with self. So let's go.
Well, under appearance, the first one is we'll start at the crown. So the head, right? So the hair and eyelashes and makeup that kids, girls in particular, under the age of 14, and what they're wearing. So we, and I'm going to do my best not to do so much reminiscence and back in my day and kind of that conversation, because it's only partially relevant, because it's a baseline. Our past history and our past experiences is just our baseline. And we have to remember that, because we're in a different time, and so many factors impact where we are now. So, and I would appreciate it also, as we reflect on our journey and as we talk about our childhood, that we don't get stuck in that area. Because again, our past history, our journey is just the baseline to begin a conversation. That should not end the conversation, because where I was in 1972 versus where I am in 2023, there's so many things that have changed over those years, right? We didn't have cell phones in 1972. I didn't. Maybe some folks did, but I didn't. And so the fact that I have a cell phone, that the cell phone is an extension of a person, and that there are no more telephone booths, right? You can't go and put 2 dimes in a telephone booth and and make a phone call. Most people, if you don't have one, the government is even offering you free phones. So I'm just saying that it is an extension of the people who are in this culture living this life in 2023. And so I think it's important that when we make statements about our own journey, our own backstory, that becomes the baseline and not the expectation to go back to something that was just a baseline. Okay, so that's what I wanted to open up with first. But I want to get back to how girls in particular, under 14 and under, have been given permission to have weave in their hair, even braids, those long, heavy braids, been able to dye and color their hair, and have been allowed to wear eyelashes, false eyelashes, and we're not really talking about little girl eyelashes. We're talking about things that women, I'm saying women, 21 and older women will do, and how even in hair salons you often find yourself sitting next to a little girl getting the same type of treatment that you're giving yourself as a grown woman, and that there's some parent that is allowing that to happen, or some family or some community or some village that is allowing that to happen. So I want to talk about that first, and kind of I want to look at it through the lens of health. I want to look at it through the lens of mental wellness, and I also want to look at it through the lens of values, our community values, our family values. So, Calvin, if you have any particular thoughts, have you seen that yourself? Have you seen the girls 14 and under with hair, whether it's colored or and eyelashes?
So yeah, of course you see it, right? You see it in the process, and the one thing I don't want to do is really make it just about that, right? But I do understand the point that you're making about appearance and why appearance is such an important thing, because it fits the societal norm, and because of that, right, we parent for the decency of our children. Now, with that being said, a lot of us don't know better. They only know what I do. I guess this is the way to do it, because nobody really showed me. Like, so yeah, I'm gonna put some Batman eyelashes on my 12, 13-year-old. She walking around here fast. Guess what? Without dad, she has her period faster. So now that's a different environment. With dad, she's a little bit more masculine. It's a little different. But with both, you have balance. And so our children are not getting enough of each anyway. Some a little bit more, some a little less.
More of what, though?
Of the parent. It depends on who they spend the most time with. You got that foundation. You got to be there, right? You know, that's a you waking up and she 5 and she already been tattooed, right? She automatically getting her ears pierced. So that's the beginning. She didn't get to choose that. That was chose for her. Now,
I saw a 3-year-old with a nose piercing.
Yeah.
I saw a 3-year-old with a nose piercing.
Yeah. And it could have been a magnet. Didn't have to necessarily be in the nose. It could have been a magnet. That's how they start.
Yeah, I know.
That's exactly how they start.
3 years old.
They start with the magnets. That's exactly how it starts.
3 years old.
Anyway, I don't want to get right into there.
The next part of appearance is tattoos and piercings, and this goes for both males and females. Again, children 14 and under. The question is, have we taken their innocence?
Yeah, we take that just by blowing in front of them. We take that back.
No. We're still focused on tattoos and piercings. We're still focused on the piercings. You can talk about that later down
We're giving tattoos and piercing. They're allowing that. We didn't saw that. We've seen that.
We have seen that.
We've seen that. They've made that. But where do you see it at? You either gonna see it in a small town, inner city, right? You're gonna see it. It's here. You know, but tattoos and piercing. Have we taken their innocence? Yes.
And so what then is the message when you see a 10-year-old with piercings? I'm talking about male and female, because we see them both. I should have gone back when I talked about hair in terms of males also with the dyeing of their hair blonde and auburn colors, and then there's a lot of that It's part of popular culture now.
Yeah, but it's because it's acceptable culture, and
Acceptable culture.
It's what the environment provides. I can be
Permits.
right. I can do whatever I want. You know, I can dye my hair if I want to. I can walk around here and do everything that she do or he do. Right. Not everything that we do. Right. So it's going to keep coming back to that. Right. Because that's the kids are very defiant. They're very defiant. Right. Kids today will really take a butt whooping for a tattoo without your permission. Like.
And that's with and without permission.
They taking your gun. They taking your money. They doing that. And, you know, from where I come from.
We're still on appearance. We
Appearance,
got values at the bottom.
Piercings and tattoos. So the piercings and tattoos. So, yes, that's it.
So what have you seen?
I have seen kids.
With boys in particular, too. I'm sorry.
Come on now. We didn't see it all. Why you want to put the gun in my hand?
I'm saying, how many examples
now
are
you want
you
me to
finding?
go in. You see that?
How many? What are some of the examples that you've seen and you found in that? So even in when we see boys in sports, because a lot of and I'm skipping too because that's role model, but even boys in sports, I'm noticing little league sports. I'm seeing piercings, tattoos. I'm seeing locks with their hair colored.
Yeah, the boys take better care of their hair than the girls.
Okay.
We still on piercings, right?
We're still on tattoos and piercings. So what kinds of tattoos are you seeing on kids under 14?
Mostly guns. You will see you'll see a lot of mothers' names. Under 14, I'm trying to go back. It was 2008. We was at Finney, right? Jared Davis brought us in, and we brought in several, at least 35. That's 2008. At least 35 had tattoos on their neck and everything. Wasn't even out of high school. We're exposing them to grown things that we have no understanding of what that grown thing is. So we're still on tattoos and piercings.
Right, because that's activity.
Right. So let's go down to chores.
No, that's
chores in clothing.
choices.
Choices in clothing. We're still
Right.
on appearance. Okay.
Yeah.
Choices in clothing. We are very materialistic.
Okay.
And we've always brought, even back when we was busting up with the two combs, gold head, with the coming down with the different prints from the different countries on the back of the, that we had on the hieroglyphic walls. We've been pimping gear since the beginning of time.
Yeah, I think you went a little bit far back in history.
But I'm just saying.
About hieroglyphs.
I'm just saying we're materialistic, so we've been messing with our choice in clothing, and it's always been something I can imagine even a slave owner dealt with. You know what I mean? Like, hey man,
You're still too far back in history. You passed your own benchmark.
So
Your
choices
baseline.
in clothing. I didn't have no choice. My parents ran that. It was some Huskies, jeans, the same pair of gym shoes for 3 years, the collar shirt with the collar pant, and I couldn't say I didn't want to wear this. My lips would have been on the wall talking back to me. I couldn't say, right? But the good thing was that wasn't always a threat with us because it was my Uncle Book. See, my Uncle Book used to go down to Hudson's. Hudson's used to have a clearance sale. So my Uncle Book, this is my granddaddy's brother. My Uncle Book knew we was over there with just my mom after they split up. So my Uncle Book would come over after going down there, get off the bus, come down the street on Prairie, and open up a bag from Hudson's and offer us nice shirts and button-downs and a pair of pants. Everybody got to experience Uncle Book. So my Uncle Booker, right, that was his thing in retirement. Just go down to Hudson's, go downtown, catch the bus, go through the the clearance sale racks and see what he can find for his great nephews and great nieces, and come to the house and have my mother go through that pile. So we really didn't have the type of choice. It was 7 of us. We was garage sale babies. You know what I mean? Like, I went to school with the super duper, super fly leather when everybody else was in something up to date. I had the rust color tie at your waist, James Brown shaft with the big collars. And I thought, and that's middle school. And I thought I was sweet. You hear me? So we didn't have no choices. This is what you better put this on. You know what I mean? And me and my brother shared draws. So it was tough. I'm telling you that right now. Period. So yeah, we didn't have that choice.
And so the children today, and again, we're referring to children 14 and under. So we're talking about middle school and under, and elementary school, middle school. I saw a little girl. She was probably 10, 11 years old, who had on some booty shorts. And you're not thinking necessarily that this is an economic. It looked like a style choice based on her whole appearance. So she had on some wedge shoes. Wow. She had on some, and when I say booty shorts, like you could see the underside of her butt, booty shorts. And she had on a tank top. So she wasn't like fully developed, but she was developing. And the fact that she had on shorts and somebody is allowing her to walk around like that, it is, I want to say that it's dangerous, right? You think, well, she's just a little girl, she's safe. But when you put that image, you allow a child to develop this image, then if there are no boundaries with just the shorts and the tank top you have on, what's next? What's the next boundary that's open? And then what are the thoughts and the values that go along with that appearance? So now she was comfortable enough to be walking around that way. And I'm talking about like in public spaces, like walking down the street. It was a concern to me. I mean, but you don't pull over your car and you say, hey, little girl, you need some, your shorts need to be like longer than booty shorts. I can see your butt, but as a village, so it's a conflict for me. So as a member of the village, do I have the right to say something? And do I not say something unless I'm going to help solve the problem? And is that just my problem because it's just my view from where I'm sitting?
So everything in this country is itemized. It has to become an item because people are very comfortable in not doing. They're very comfortable. And so what you're doing is you're itemizing an area. You're isolating an area that should be addressed by every female organization, right? Mm-hmm. Even if they're in cheerleading, it should be a certain way that you dress.
Oh yeah, that's
when you're not category. in your.
That's the next category. Activities. Don't jump down to cheerleading. That's a big one.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You might not cover that boy today. Right?
Clothes, choices and clothes.
Right. So what you're saying,
when do we offer input?
It's going to come back. You have to offer the input from the word go. This is a beginning thing. You don't get to make that decision. I've been screaming this from the top of your lungs. Stop letting kids make adult decisions. These are the decisions that the parents are supposed to make. No, it's too many babies out here. It's 44,000 missing babies. I'm not about to give you a reason to
take my child.
Right, so I'm not about to physically, hyperly expose her anatomy and everything like that, and let her just walk in like, "Hey, cute." And they say, "Where's Jody?" You know what I mean? Like, it just no, right? So I understand, right? Because these are yet other symptoms.
For sure.
These are yet other symptoms. But go ahead. This is maybe you can get to the middle of the next one. Let's go.
So I just want to say that we have to be able to raise these questions and be part of the solution. So I like one of the solutions that you mentioned, Calvin, was to encourage women's groups to start as parents looking and setting boundaries for our girls. As an organization, you can set a precedence that says our kids, our girls under 16 or our girls under, this is the expectation. This is what we want to help them to model, help us navigate their decision making and their style choices or their hair and what's acceptable culture. And I believe that when we know there are a lot of women's organizations, what are we doing and what are we saying and how are we making that difference? And can our collective voices as women in the organizations that are, which I'm going to stop here because I want to get to the modeling, how women in these organizations, what can we do to help establish these boundaries and help teach women, even the ones within your organization, even the parent groups that we belong to, where do we set those boundaries?
You can only pick one topic from activity. That's the only way you're gonna make it.
No, okay. No, we're gonna get through this. So the first activity, which is the top of a conversation often, is video games. We're talking about activities that have and potentially take the innocence from our children, 14 and under. So video games are, for the most part, simulated activity, right? They teach you and they program your mind so that as your mind is being exposed, so is your environment expanding. And so when you have, video games that show and display and program you into a mindset of violence, it's nothing to then pick up a real gun and do the same thing that you were doing in the video game, because it's a practice simulation activity. And so what you see in terms of your mind, and because if I know a lot of people have heard this too, when they put the electrode to your heads or your bodies, and they are trying to see if your body will respond to your imagination the same way it would respond to a real activity. So for a race, for a runner, for an athlete, they can test that to see how your body responds when you are imagining or seeing something in front of you. And when you're actually in that action, it's the same. Your body responds the same way. And so, but it's a programming. Video games are programs. Software programs. So you're being programmed. So before it was a video game, it was something that military organizations used to help simulate that type of activity that they were going into. Now they're video games. So, and I'm saying, we know there are a vast number of video games, right? Some of them are not necessarily violent video games, but they still put images in front of your mind, in front of you, that you can simulate as real life experience. A lot of the boys who think that they can play sport is because they have high scores on video games. There is a difference between jumping into a basketball game and knowing the skill versus knowing the skill in a basketball game that's a video game. But it still triggers the same parts of your brain. And so are we now taking their innocence, allowing them to think that they are the next Michael Jordan on the video game versus what they are on the actual court? Okay, Calvin's not speaking on that one. Okay, so we're moving into sports and cheerleading as activities where we have potentially taken the innocence from our children and also out of the game. So in terms of sports, learning how to be sportsman-like. So that's not you playing football and you are really hurting somebody in the game. You're not just tackling them, or you're not just taking the ball, you're not just taking a flag, you pushing them and you kicking them while they're down, and you having this violent response to it's supposed to be a game, a competitive sport. There's a difference between the physical aspect of sports for children especially versus the competition, or the not just the competitiveness, but the skill set that is being developed, the mindset of teamwork and sportsmanship that should be developed. And in the same way, for cheerleading, and I've heard this said, and I've seen this, unfortunately, I've seen this where some young girls who went through cheerleading were also moonlighting as female dancers. And knowing some of those young women personally who have moved from cheerleading to being a female dancer, or the majorettes and things like that you see in the bands, move into becoming female dancers, moonlighting as that for private parties. And we're talking still children on 14 and under. And let me be clear that we're still talking about that. And that are we allowing the sport of cheerleading to be a more provocative entertainment that is preparing our girls to do more adult-like activity? Are we allowing too much sexuality to be present in cheerleading, or in dancers, or in the girls that dance with the band, those kind of things? Are we allowing that to? Are we not setting boundaries and allowing it to take the innocence of our children? If you are a parent, if you are a member of the village, these are questions that we need to be asking. When is too much too much? And you're like, well, they're just cheering. No, not anymore. If you're watching cheerleaders today, even in Little League, the little girls twerking and cheering. I don't remember twerking being a part of cheerleading when I was a cheerleader. But, again, that's my baseline. When do we set the boundaries, and how do we set the boundaries? Who are the coaches for cheerleading and for the dancers, for the bands and things like that? Who are they, and what boundaries are you setting? What is acceptable culture in those environments?
You cannot expect people to do something they were never taught. It's very rare, right? So to have that type of upbringing, if you will, to understand that this has been part of the culture for a while.
It's been a growing extension of the boundaries acceptable culture.
I watched Two Men them in 1998.
And how old were they?
C-team football players.
How old? 14 and under?
Under 14.
Okay.
It was provocative then. Mm-hmm. It was provocative before Two Man them. Come on now. We had a song called Pop That Coochie. Mm-hmm. Right? And you was on the dance floor back when it came out, right? So again, it goes back to who's doing the parenting here. I heard the little the thing yesterday. The lady said when they took discipline out the house. So she blamed discipline on single house. I mean, she blamed everything on discipline. They took the discipline out the house. When they took the discipline out the house, that's when you found out the teachers and the principals were scared of the board. You found out the board was scared of the parents and the kids, and you found out the parents were scared of the kids, and then you found out the kids wasn't scared of nothing.
Right.
That's what she said, right? But if we're being honest here, for some strange reason, you got these schools, colleges, high schools they're performing at an alarming rate. Like, how you got all these kids with these high grades and getting $40 million worth of scholarships? They ain't just handing that out. You know what I mean? Like, how you get that? How you got an all-black boys school, right? Everybody winning at the all-black boys school for the last 12 years. What is that? Huh? What you think that is? Why you think the cheerleading is what it is? What you think that is?
I think this is acceptable culture and boundaries.
Okay. All right, let's go.
All right.
What's your next?
And so the last one in this category of activity is what you're allowed to watch on TV, movies, cable. I'm saying cable for you guys that don't have the live streaming, the streaming channels. So are we taking our children's innocence by allowing them to watch adult content?
Yes.
Because when you start going to streaming, I was watching a D.L. Hughley, and my son came in the room and he was doing some extra colorful metaphors as he was, doing his stand up. And I was like, oop, too much cussing. So I turned it off and put something else on. And he's 16. It's not that he hasn't heard, cuss words before, but the fact, I don't want him to think, he doesn't hear me talk like that. He may hear some other folks talk like that, but he doesn't hear me talk like that. And what I want to make sure of is that he understands that as a parent, that it's not acceptable. I'm not going to listen to things like that in front of you and let you think that it's okay to hear it and have me be the one to expose you to it. That's not what I'm doing here. Oh, okay. He's telling me to hurry up. Okay. So there's an agreement that what we allow our children to watch on TV, streaming, videos, YouTube, all of those platforms, even social media, TikTok. I had a preview of a TikTok with a lady that's sitting with some shorts on that are more like thong than short, but she's sitting with the cameras on her backside, so you see her butt with her shorts that look like thongs on. Wow. I'm like, I'm not pushing that button. I mean, but it was just on the screen. Like, it wasn't a choice. It's in the, the feed. Your
parents are on the same thing. You parents are.
I don't want to see that.
I'm telling you, you parents are something else.
Okay, going to the next one. Going to the next one.
I was about to say,
the next
parents,
one is education.
They got them phones. You heard they said the average 6-year-old is exposed to porn.
Wow.
With the cell phone. Kids have over 84,000 images of violence and nudity daily. Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so school environment under education. Have we taken the innocence of our children through our school environment?
I'm torn. The school environment, I'm torn, right? And I have to say this. I can't disagree. Okay, so sure, the school environment most definitely impacts. But it's what is coming to the school that impacts the school's environment.
And what's allowed to take place in the schools.
And what's allowed to take place in the school.
Because, you hear stories about what happens in back hallways among children in schools. Just because you may not get pregnant at 9 and 10 years old don't mean they're not back in the back corners having sex. So, so is that a matter of what do you call it? Oversight? Is that a matter of expectation? Is that a matter of permission? Are we imitating what we're seeing? I mean, has that become the norm?
Or
boundaries. Go ahead.
Or you might want to write this one down. This one might be heavy.
Okay, I got it.
So it's not only what you allow that happens. It is what you are made of that goes ungoverned that produces the same thing. The things that you're made of that goes ungoverned produces the same results. What happens is when we talk DNA and we talk these things, we talk about, the other day when I had the meeting at the Sherwood, Marvin Winans was in there. Marvin Winans go, woo wee, man, you look just like your granddaddy and your daddy. Like you got that man's. I could see you anywhere. I said, you got it too. You got that Winans thing all over you. Right? He started laughing. I was like, hey, good to see you, man. He's like, yeah, good to see you. I said, yeah, here, take this card with you. If you ever need somebody to talk fatherhood, I'm your guy, right? But my point is, we both come from the same backgrounds. Both of our fathers was pastors. Our fathers used to compete with music. The only thing that impacted that relationship was his daddy stayed and my father and father divorced. So they were able to learn and get all those things early on. So whatever transgressions, and this is for any parent that's listening, and I tell this to the mentees too, whatever transgression you have, it is on your seed. If you are not there to govern it, anything is possible. This is what you're producing. You need to understand that procreating in a lustful environment will bring a lustful child into this world. It is no way around it. It's why you see so many things is dedicated and located and dictated in DNA. It's real. And so you would see that because that's how I was born. It wasn't necessarily what I have seen. I was born with somebody in the back over by the wall where nobody could see me, and we was having it over here. I was born this way. I wasn't made to love matriarch, patriarch, two people, a covenant, a seed. I wasn't cherished enough to get everything and all the ingredients that I'm supposed to get within that process. So, yeah.
Yeah, so my people perish for lack of knowledge.
Understanding how important it is to be loved and love.
Well, thank you for that emotional recap.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next piece of education we're going to is homework and schoolwork. The expectation of homework and schoolwork. That have we taken our children's innocence because we don't enforce homework, we don't support homework and or schoolwork, that it's okay that they don't do the work? Are we taking their innocence?
Of course. They don't do chores. They get to pick their own clothing. They get to stay up late at night. They get to go out when they want to. They get to decide if I go to school. I don't feel like it. They can decide if I don't want to put this on. I don't feel like it. Did you do your homework? I didn't feel like it.
Or I didn't have any.
Whatever. I didn't have any. I didn't feel like it. And so the tone is matter of factly like, what you gonna do if I didn't, right? Because I've mastered you. I know you. The child has mastered the parent. He or she knows when the parent is telling lies. She know what you look like. She know what you look like if you being serious. They know what you look like if you are being fake. They know what you look like if you're being naughty. They've been watching you. All you did was sit them in and put them in a position to watch you. So now that they're watching you, no, they're not mimicking that. Not in front of you. They wait till they get outside or get over somebody else's house, and they go to talking and acting just like you. They get to the school. They go to acting just like you. Like, it just happened. Where you get this big personality from, Calvin? Why you like this? Because I come from 2 Virgos. My mother and father had egos. I come from 2 Virgos. Double dose.
Well, the next in the school environment is our reading or reading habits and actually reading and owning books.
Ooh.
Have we taken our children's innocence when they don't have reading embedded in their lives and their day and or books to read that they can access? Have we taken their innocence?
Ooh. We destroyed their innocence with that one. Having a library in your home is everything. Go get that book out the library. Just being able to say that. Go get that book out the library.
Or off the shelf.
Right. Off the shelf. That's perfect. We had the what did you call that? The
Bookmobile?
encyclopedias.
Oh. Thinking bookmobile.
My aunt Inez made sure that we had encyclopedias at the house. My Aunt Gussie, she was encyclopedias. I had to go to the library to write reports outside of what I had to do at school when I was a little boy in the city before I started singing for Coleman Young with Miss Glenn in the choir. Heads off to Coleman Young, the first black mayor we've ever had.
Okay, so.
And that was at Hickabottom, where I had got kicked out of pastor.
I went faster.
All right, so they're having family school reunions here.
I got kicked out of pastor. It was like, you got to go.
So our next segment is about role models. Role models. So, and have we taken the innocence of our children by the actors that we see, by the singers, performers, by social media personalities? Have we taken the innocence from our children by presenting certain people as models or role models in front of our children?
Yes, because it has everything to do with getting a bag.
Getting a bag.
Yes, there are people.
You say bag, I'm thinking chips. So
Right.
getting a bag of what?
Money, right? Getting
Okay.
money.
Okay.
There are thousands of people who make money on the internet. Thousands, if not millions.
Yes.
Right? You saw, I got a check from my Instagram. Right? So there are thousands of ways you're getting paid on the internet. So the kids see the exposure. Like my daughter, she sent me a picture yesterday. You know why she sent the picture? Because it had over 90,000 people view it. Right? It had 2,000 and some people like it. Right? And so she thought, when she said that to me, she was like, oh, I know I'm fine. I said, I've been told you that. I didn't need this picture to be confirmed with all my kids fine. What is you talking about?
So what you're saying is your daughter sent you a picture of herself that had 90,000 views.
Yeah.
And 2,500 likes is what you're saying. Okay. I just want to make sure I was clear.
And so she was like, I got 100,000 right to her brother. I started laughing. Then I said, you always been fine. Right? You know what I mean? Like, all my children are beautiful. That's just the way God bless me. But that's the way I feel about anybody that comes from me. You should be beautiful.
All right, so back to taking the innocence from our children by who we put in front of them as models. Thank you.
So the role must be played enough for the child to model. Role modeling is very, very important. And it's everything. It's what you present, because I forget the brother's name. We just read where he said, the kids have always disobeyed the parents. But they never failed to imitate them. They might not listen to you, but they never failed to not imitate them, right? And so imitation is what happens. That's what I mean by not governing your DNA. Come on now, come on, Heather. Heather, go back. You might as well go back with me, right? Think about that time when you did something you wasn't supposed to do, and you literally saw it on your kid, knowing they was just about to do the same dumb thing or had did the same thing.
Okay, I submit.
Yeah. So when you
But we're talking about people who society, community, our
Exactly.
village have put in front of our children. Like, look, this is a model. We
Yes.
approve of
as
whatever
long
the
as you go-
behavior,
as long as you're going for
whether
money,
it's
baby.
acceptable or not. We keep putting them up in front as
If
the
you're
model.
going for money, that's all that matters. I will twerk the daylight out your camera or your phone, knowing that it was some. They got a twerk class that was videotaped that has over 3 million views, and it's just a bunch of women in there twerking, and 3 million people stop by. We're out here. It's you. Whew.
Okay, so we're going to keep moving. All right, so the last category is beliefs and values. So we're talking about sexuality, gender and identity, history, culture, and religion. Beliefs and values. Have we taken the innocence of our children by how we communicate, display sexuality, the blatant sexual images that we keep putting in front of our kids, the gender roles, male and female roles, and also the gender-based identities with all of the, because I don't want to be disrespectful. So all of the letters that go along with and all the different variations of who people identify themselves as in terms of their sexuality.
So again, I'm going to stay in my lane. There's a bunch of lanes out there. I can only drive the one that's in front of me, right? This is my lane. In my lane is belief. In my lane is God. In my lane is family. In my lane is boys, men, husbands, fathers, family, restoration. I continue the lane, right? Mm-hmm. So your beliefs will ultimately shape your lane. You have to be conscious of your beliefs and your awareness and the things that in your life that you speak into your life, because those things do play a major significant part. And again, just to be clear, although divisive, as much as religion is divisive, it has also saved millions and millions of lives.
All right. And so then it seems that in all 5 of these categories, appearance, activity, education, role models, and beliefs and values, that we have taken the innocence from our children, especially the ones 14 and younger. So now that we know that we are all a part of this to some degree in all these different categories, of what do we do? I love the opportunity that you talked about for female organizations to set boundaries and standards for our girls coming up behind us. I love that because there are so many female organizations. I think that's really important. In terms of activities, how do we now, and I'm not talking necessarily about censorship, but I am talking about responsible parenting, responsible stewardship, responsible ways that we can help curb and help our kids navigate when they're 14 and younger. What's appropriate for a 14-year-old? We need to set some boundaries around what's appropriate and what's acceptable culture.
We'll put it in the book. Put it in the book. So next week, we'll do part 2 to this conversation and review, and then give some solutions to this process that you've started. Right? I wish we can just do an hour. Right? You start a process. You want to go deep. She like to cut down to your 9th ancestor. That's where she like to go.
The first step is awareness and new information.
So part 2 next week.
Okay.
And if you could take it there, tell everybody where they can meet you at and greet you at and see you at.
You can reach me at yourinspiredjourney.com. That's yourinspiredjourney.com. You can also reach out to me by phone at 313-759-7855. And you can also look on my social media, my Instagram and Facebook. And especially this month, in the next couple of months, we're talking about peace and we're talking about grief. How are we managing and navigating this level of grief, especially for women who are carrying a lot of it and it's impacting how we live?
Okay, so you can find me on an airplane across the street and with an Arab man.
No, don't
I don't
damage
care
Olita.
how you get here.
Don't damage Olita. Don't
get
damage the
here
queen.
if
No,
you
no, no,
can.
no, 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 no.
I believe this. Okay. Anyway, you can reach me at calvintman.com, booking for any speaking engagements across the country, anything on fatherhood, boys, men. I'm your guy, 38 years in the game. You will start seeing that more often. Prepping for Emmy Apparel launch. Appreciate you. Yeah. And we're going to get out on September 16th, so get ready. With that being said, next week, part 2 of Are We Stripping, Destroying, Demonstratizing Our Children's Innocence? We say, yeah, oh yeah. With that being said, I'm Calvin Mann. Peace.